Yo, what's up everyone? My name is Andrew Warren, and as you can see from our portfolio today, we had a start in the negative from like 9 a.m. to about 10:30 a.m. and then about at 10:30 a.m. that's when the stock market kind of started leading upwards towards about the middle of the day, and then of course is at about 3:15 p.m. That's when we started to see like sort of like a decline at the end of the day, and even this decline is consistent not only with my portfolio but also with a bunch of the other stocks out there as well, including VOO, which generally mirrors the stock market trend. We had like an end of day crash, as you can see right here. Not really like the typical crash that we think of, but in terms of just the progress that we made today, we had like an end of day crash. And as you know, VOO sort of represents the general stock market trend. It mirrors the S&P 500, which tracks the top 508 companies. And also, by the way, before we get into any of this and start talking about the potential of a crash or a recession in the future and whether I think it's going to happen, please make sure to drop a like on this video. I just wanted to do another portfolio update and just talk about the moves that I'm making in the market, what I'm looking at to buy currently. So if you do enjoy these videos, make sure to drop a like on it, smash that like button. It really does help me out. But as I'm speaking right now, it is about 3:58 p.m. and we are about to enter the after hours for the market. So like I said, we started out pretty negative. I didn't wake up until about 1 p.m. today. I know I slept super late, but when I woke up at 1 p.m., the portfolio was looking solid. We were at like a $500 gain at plus 0.67%. But then towards the end of the day, of course, as you can see, Microsoft started spiking down and then Tesla started spiking down. Tesla had actually been down a lot earlier than Microsoft spiked down, but Microsoft spiked down pretty much about the same time as VOO and a lot of these others, and especially considering that Microsoft is a big part of VOO. So there is always some consistency between the action of these two right here. And I have to emphasize on another note, Tesla's actually been struggling a little bit today. This is like one of the lowest days I've seen for Tesla in a while, but I'll be talking about some purchases I made recently, not just Tesla, but some other stocks as well. But as you can see, I do own currently 25 shares, and then I have a limit buy placed also at a limit price of $7.96. So we do have a decent amount of action going on in terms of like stocks I'm purchasing, what I've been purchasing lately, and then future orders listed up as well. So as you know right now with Tesla, I do have an order coming in if it does go below $7.96, but that's the only order that I have right now that's pending. That's the only order that I've set. So I don't have any orders for Microsoft or anything like that, but as you can see today, at least one good thing I have to say about my portfolio is Apple. Apple is kind of an underrated stock because it seems like it's one of the most consistent performers I've had over the course of me beginning investing on Robinhood, and especially with Apple commonly being considered overvalued, especially with a fair value. The analyst research report, according to Morningstar, an accurate fair value to them is about $240. And as you can see with the history on this stock, it does not get anywhere near that $240 price range unless we're talking about the very bottom of this recent crash right here, which was at $224. But it wasn't at a $240 price range until about like early mid-October 2019. So I think the fair value for Apple needs to be upgraded definitely because it's one of those most consistent performers that is always going to have a premium in my opinion, just because Apple has embedded itself in the culture, and it's especially attained that status where if someone has an Apple product, they're often seen as higher up because they own that product and because it's expensive, it's modern, it's popular. In my opinion, you're going to be paying a premium for Apple stock just because it does have that status, and for another thing, it simply just performs well also. That's just facts. But to jump on to the topic of whether I think a stock market crash or a recession is going to be happening sometime soon, this is one of those topics that is really hard to respond to because I'm constantly changing my opinions about things, and then also the news is constantly changing as well. So we've seen some news steer towards a brighter future recently. However, there's really no promise that there's not going to be a second wave of the Rona, and then we have to enter this situation once again. And then, of course, if we have to enter a second quarantine, that is going to absolutely destroy the stock market, in my opinion. No one wants to go through a bunch of nonsense where either the stock market is declining significantly, or we just have a few months or maybe even a few years of the stock market basically doing nothing. Just a lot of volatility, but a general baseline of doing nothing. And especially in the last week, that kind of seems like what has been happening. I mean, obviously my portfolio is a little bit negative, And my portfolio is very different from the general stock market trend stocks like VOO. Of course, if you look at the past week or so, there has been some progress. But with some other stocks as well, like Tesla stock, there hasn't been a huge progress, I believe, this week. Not too much progress. But like I said, there are some stocks out there that are experiencing basically doing nothing, especially like the cruise lines, the airline stocks. A lot of those haven't been performing well up until this week. I know that this week they got a little bit of leeway where like CCL has increased a decent amount. I'd say Carnival Cruise Lines, yeah, it's down a lot today, but it's done pretty well overall the past week or so. So I think there's two situations if there is a second wave of the Rona in terms of like whether a recession or a crash is going to happen in the future. There's two possibilities. For one thing, there's a lot of people that just simply don't want to deal with the roller coaster ride of emotions that comes with investing, especially in a situation like this where we can have a quarantine that negatively affects the stock market. We come out of quarantine, the stock market starts booming, and then if we go back into quarantine again, we have to go through those same emotions again, wondering whether there's going to be a third wave, and then we'll also be wondering whether public officials will make the right decisions that will help our economy, but also help our health as well. So at this point, in my opinion, there is a lot of fear and there's a lot of confusion in the stock market. I think there's a lot of bullish people as well, including myself. I'm pretty bullish right now, but I understand that I need to be a little bit cautious towards the future of the stock market. I mean, definitely considering my public health background as well, obviously I'm going to be a little bit more observant when it comes to the Rona situation, and I'm going to be looking for some signs, of course. But at this point, even if I do think a second wave of the Rona is going to happen, I'm probably just going to hold for the long term. I understand that this is one of those few situations where you can kind of predict when the stock market is going to crash. Actually, that hasn't been true as of late thanks to the Fed, but there were some panic sellers that kind of jumped out of the stock market in January, and it saved their portfolio, obviously. But in my opinion, all of that depends on what they had in their portfolio, because if they simply just bought and held like me, if they had a lot of tech stocks, then they probably have recovered already. Whereas if they had a lot of cruise liner, a lot of airline stocks, and some of those other stocks that were definitely affected by the Rona, then they may be at about the halfway up mark in terms of their portfolio if they just held instead of selling early. But overall, my answer about whether I think a stock market crash is coming in the future, my answer to that would be I absolutely have no idea. I'm a little bit bullish right now, but I'm also being super cautious because I do believe that there's a big possibility for a crash in the future or a recession in the future coming up soon if we do have to deal with more of the Rona. But like I said, right now I'm still buying stocks. I do have a little bit cash on the side right now. That's because I need to pay taxes that are due, I think, July 15th. So I'm saving that for the taxes because I will have to pay a pretty solid amount in taxes from last year. But all of this is certainly an interesting topic. I think it's super interesting just to see how the stock market is interacting, how investors are interacting with the market, their feelings, their thoughts, their reactions on the market, especially during these times where we're seeing stuff happening that just does not make sense compared to the news that's surrounding us right now, the current events that's surrounding us. So I have to admit, it's super strange to see unemployment like at all-time highs, and then of course the stock market is booming right now. So it does make you want to be a little bit cautious, especially given the current events and the potential in the future for things to go wrong. But overall, I'm just playing the stock market's game. I'm going along with it, and I'm still buying stocks like I mentioned. I have made some purchases recently. I won't discuss in depth on those because I want to do individual videos where I break down the stock, analyze the stock, and talk about its future. But as you can see, my portfolio has changed from the last video that I posted on my channel. So you will be able to see a few little things that have changed in terms of like my positions. But jumping right into that, my gains and losses for today. As you can see, $432 loss for today. The after hours is currently glitched. Let's see if we can fix that. Okay, yeah, so $420 lost. Interesting number, should I say. And then in the after hours, we gained about $123. So jumping right into Microsoft, my largest holding in the stock market in my portfolio takes up about 44% of my portfolio, so definitely a significant amount. Average cost is $170. I own 187 shares. And if we look at today's return, we have gained about 0.09% or about $32. And in total, we have gained 6.55%, which is about $2,091. Then next up, we have Tesla stock. This is one that I've been super bullish on recently, and I've also been buying more shares of this a lot recently. As you can see, we own 25 shares. Tesla takes up about 26.24% of my portfolio. Average cost is about $814. And of course, in total, I have about $20,000 invested in this company. And for today's return, we are at minus 1.65%. or minus $337. So we lost a significant amount in Tesla today. And then, of course, for total return, we are down 0.99% or about $201. So I'm not too worried about Tesla. I'm super long-term vision on this stock. It's one of those that will be volatile in the near future, but in the long term, I think I'm going to make some good money on this stock. Then next up, we have Apple stock, one of the few havens of hope for me. It's like one of those stocks that weirdly performs well when you don't expect it to, and especially when the other stocks aren't performing well. So I'm super happy with my holdings in Apple, and even at its current stock price, I do recognize that it is expensive, and according to the fair value, it's overvalued, but I do think there's a lot of good value even at this $319 price, because Apple stock really just doesn't care about analyst expectations. It's doing its own thing, and it's going to grow regardless. So regardless of analyst expectations in terms of a fair value, Apple stock is just going to do its thing, and people are still going to buy it, in my opinion. But as you can see, I own 42 shares, or about $12,000 in Apple stock. Today's return is about 0.35% or plus $46. In total, we are plus 11.63%. or about $1,400 in this stock. So doing pretty solid for me so far. A $1,400 gain considering that I bought back in like mid-December and then maybe some in January as well. This stock is performing very well for me in the short term just within this past 5 months, so I'm super happy with that. It's definitely already recovered from the most recent drop, the most recent crash. And then of course finally we have a free stock, which is Marathon Oil. Not too worried about this one or anything. It's just one of those free ones that I'm letting recover to its initial baseline. I'd say I'd probably sell about $11. Anywhere near $11 I'll sell this stock just because it was free, and I have faith in it recovering at least somewhere similar to where it was at for its baseline. But back onto our portfolio in general, I have 3 main holdings, and then of course the free stock is there. So all of my money, pretty much about $68,000, is put into 3 stocks. It is risky, but even the famous Warren Buffett once said that diversification is simply defending yourself against your own ignorance. So that is my logic with my portfolio. I understand that I'm taking a lot more risk on than the normal investor, and I don't recommend that anyone be like me and try to do what I'm doing, which is basically not diversify very much and have a lot of faith in just a small amount of stocks. But by doing that, if my research is correct and if I'm accurate with my predictions, then I'm able to grow my portfolio significantly compared to just simply diversifying and maintaining wealth with a little bit of additional money every year. But anyways, I just wanted to share this video with my thoughts and opinions about the market, the moves that I'm making, my predictions for the future in terms of whether I think a crash or a recession is going to happen. But anyways, I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you did, once again, please make sure to smash that like button. And also, if you're new to investing and simply want to start investing, feel free to use my referral links to Robinhood, which is what you're seeing right now. This is the brokerage site that I use to buy stocks. Or you can use my referral link to Webull as well, or you can do it for both and get multiple free stocks. As you can see right here, this is a potential $11 free stock that I got if I wait for it to rebound back up. So that's just an example. Nice passive income if you want to start investing. Use my referral code. And by the way, anything that I say in this video or have said already is not to be considered financial advice. It's simply just me talking about my thoughts and opinions about the market. But anyways, I hope you all enjoyed this video, and I hope you have a fantastic rest of your week. Stay safe out there.